Hey, what's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today I finally got around to seeing one of the MCU's most recent films, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings centers around this guy named Shang-Chi that gets wrapped into a fantasy world when his evil father, who owns a set of 10 powerful rings, sets out on a journey to find the mythical world of Tolo, filled with magical creatures galore and an ancient form of martial arts that you'd have to see to believe. I wish I could explain why it took me so long to watch this movie. In general, I've always been on top of every given MCU release out there. I'm also a huge fan of martial arts films, and in general, I was very excited to watch this one. But a few things had held me back. I guess the pandemic, which is still going on in the world, by the way, that closed down my theater. So most of the current releases right now are exclusively theatrical, which means that I can't see them for a while. And even if my theater didn't shut down, I'm not okay going out for leisure activities, even though I've gotten both my vaccines and my booster. It's not smart, nor is it responsible. But that's besides the point. I've seen it now, and now that everybody else has as well, I can give my 2 cents. As a fan of martial art films, I definitely appreciated the absolutely stunning display of fight choreography. A lot of Western-filmed martial art films aren't ever shot or edited very well, so it's nice to see that here. Definitely has some great choreography that takes inspiration from the more fantasy-based martial art films such as Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, as a lot of other critics have already pointed out. It has some really sharp editing as well. That way, you're able to really tell what it is that these characters are doing during these fight sequences. The cinematography is beautiful and vibrant. I want to say it's one of the MCU's brightest films to date, which sometimes works in its favor, sometimes not so much. A lot of other people have complained here and there on the graphics since it has a gigantic focus on CGI, which I don't think is bad. I just think it's too bright. It's a well-known fact that CGI looks way better in the dark, maybe even with some rain, but the brighter that it gets, the easier you can tell its flaws. So whether or not the CGI is any good or any bad is kind of a moot point. The point is that you can feel how fake it is at times. Which, I mean, I do get, and that is a slight complaint, but really very slight. Another complaint that I had about the movie is just like Thor before it, which took place on an alien planet, or the first Captain America film, which took place in the 40s, Shang-Chi doesn't feel like the MCU because it takes place in a weird fantasy world, so it's not as grounded as everything else is. I'm sure we'll eventually get there when he meets the rest of the Avengers, but it's just one of those weird origin stories that doesn't immediately feel like MCU yet. Overall, though, I think it did a great job introducing me to yet another character that I'd never seen before. I thought Shang-Chi was a fun, likable character, and even though I can't really imagine him in the Avengers team yet, I think it'll be a lot of fun getting to that point. I don't think it's the best movie I've seen all year, and certainly not the best in the MCU overall, but it's one of those movies that instead feels refreshing just to sit back and enjoy, filled with a lot of lore and culture that I can appreciate. So let's go ahead and break down my final score for a second. From a technical, unbiased perspective, even though some of the visuals were questionable with the CGI, I can't really fault it because it also kind of reminds me of classic martial art films and how tacky their visuals could be. It's a part of the soul of this type of movie. I mean, they're in a fantasy world, so to me, the rules of what that should look like are kind of thrown out the window. Fantasy is fantasy, and this fits that mold overall. The choreography is great, the action's fantastic, the acting isn't too bad. Awkwafina is a bit of a touch-and-go kind of character for me. I do like her as an actress, and I liked her chemistry with Shang-Chi, but sometimes I felt like they gave her a little bit too much screen time at times. But that's a small complaint as well. Overall, pretty solid at 84%. Now, as far as what I personally felt about the film, or my bias score as well, that's pretty similar because I did have a good time for what it's worth. Again, I don't fully feel that MCU spirit quite as much as I anticipated to feel, and I'm curious on where it'll go from here on out. But as it is, I had a good time with the movie, and that's really all that matters. This score is 82%, meaning that when we combine the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 83%. 83 out of 100 possible stars, or a B+ letter grade. So basically, this is a roundabout score that a lot of the other MCU origin films have scored around as well, meaning that it is fun, it's entertaining. but it doesn't have that big picture value that a lot of the other films have gotten recently. It has time though. What about you guys though? Have you seen Shang-Chi yet? And if so, let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and the bell. And until next time, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie.